This is Transformers 96 here with another video review. This time we have the Star Wars Rogue One Elite Series Donnie Yen's character. His character's name Chirrut something. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not quite sure. I'm probably just going to refer to him as Donnie Yen because, of course, that's the actor who is bringing this character to life. So, yeah, so eventually I'll learn his name, but for now I've got an alternative. This was definitely one that I wanted to pick up. I'm pretty excited for his character in the movie, and I am disappointed in the lack of merchandise that I see from him, especially in the Black Series. And I think that we at least see a picture of him yet. I was really hoping for Wave 2, and unfortunately he's not in Wave 2. I do have my fingers crossed for Wave 3. But at the moment, the Elite Series will do, and I'm very happy that the Elite Series is making him. Talking about the packaging quite quick, I did pick up 4 Elite Series figures today from Rogue One, and I'm reviewing them all today, being Force Friday. So this is the last figure to review. All the others I have posted their reviews for at the moment. So obviously the box design is exactly the same, although they've changed color schemes. It's now blue. You have a bit of a black kind of speckled effect in the background, and it's outlined in a metallic blue instead of the metallic red, which the old Elite Series was using. Alright, so let's talk about the actual figure. So this figure is quite nice. First of all, let's go over the head sculpt. The head sculpt I think is actually really good. I feel like for Rogue One, they have stepped it up on their head sculpts. I think that's pretty decent. Now, we obviously haven't seen a Black Series version of him, so possibly it's just because I don't really have much to compare it to that I think it's pretty decent. But I think that's a decent head sculpt. You know, it's certainly not perfect, but when you compare it to some of the Elite Series' other efforts, like Poe Dameron here, as you can see, I mean, they don't even look like they're from the same series, basically. That Poe Dameron one is just so terrible. And then with Baze, which I've already reviewed, he's got a really good head sculpt too. So I do feel like they have stepped it up on their human head sculpts, which is pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy about that. The painting on the head sculpt is quite nice. You can see his blue eyes pretty clearly. He is looking straight, of course, and doesn't have much of an expression there. It's almost like a smirk, like he's almost going to do a smirk type of thing. And then his hair does have some nice detail in it. Actually, it's kind of strange how they sculpted the hair, but it does look like his hair has texture instead of just being completely flat, which does look nice. His clothing, there's good detail in there. I mean, it's sculpted like clothing. You can see wrinkles, which I do like a lot. The issue is that they just gave it one shade. It's just a solid gray. On Baze and like K2SO, like the figures that I picked up today, they do have some more, they do have a secondary paint color that's kind of washed into the clothing, which gives it more of a realistic look. This one is just a solid gray, which is definitely disappointing, but it still does look quite nice. You do have a different shade of gray for the stripes on his shoulder. His belt, now that does have a bit of a paint wash to it. It's kind of like a very light tan, and does have a gray wash into it, which does look quite good. Do have some red and silver highlights in that little box there. Same thing with just some of the little pieces of armor on him. It does have cloth that does hang down, as you can see, kind of the back skirt area. The skirt is separated, which allows you some articulation. The legs do seem to be pretty skinny, and there's really like no detail in the legs. I would imagine that they did that because you really can't see the legs, obviously. So it can be taken as a bit lazy. However, it doesn't bother me because you don't even see the legs. So it's not a huge deal for me, but if you don't like that type of thing, it might annoy you. The clothing is that's kind of draping down. Let's see if I can get the gun out of the way. There you go. Yeah, as you can see, there's some great detail in there. I do like the way that these little bands are kind of wishing to the front, and it does look like there's some movement in the clothing, and it looks quite realistic, which I do like. As far as his weight, he's pretty good. Obviously, die-cast figure. He seems like a pretty solid die-cast figure. The areas that are plastic are obviously his weapon, his head, his hands, the feet, and then the clothing that's hanging down. So anything from the waist that hangs down. But the bulk of the torso, arms, and legs are die-cast. So he's a solidly weighted figure. His gun is really cool. He's got like this crossbow gun thing, like an extreme version of Chewbacca's, which just looks awesome. I really love it a lot. It has great sculpting to it. looks super cool, and then the colors are awesome. It's like this this kind of dark brown, almost has like a grayish look to it, some silver, and then some great gold detail, and the gold detail is painted really nicely. So I love this gun. I think that it's painted really nicely. My only issue is I wish that we got his staff, the stick, whatever you want to call it, the thing that he uses in the trailer, because we've seen pictures of him with this gun, but we haven't seen him actually use it in the trailer. But in the trailer, he's used that staff. So I would have really liked to see him come with that. Pretty disappointed that he does not include it, though, I must say. Articulation on him is standard for the Black Series. He's got a ball joint head, which can look up and down slightly. And it can look side to side pretty perfectly. He's got a ball hinge shoulder, which works quite nice. Hinge elbows, which do a full 90 degrees. Swivel at the wrist. He has a swivel waist. Although, you know what? This figure might actually not have it. Let me try. You know what? I'm thinking that he doesn't have a swivel waist. That might just be because of all of the stuff that's like attached to him. So I'm not quite sure. He doesn't. You really have no use of the swivel waist though. He has ball jointed hips, but they're pretty hindered by the clothing. So like you can get them up a bit, but you are kind of stressing the clothing, and the clothing is slightly softer than usual, but it still does hinder it a bit. He can go to the side very far, at least on this side. On this side though, it's closed off, so he definitely can't. Then he has hinges at the knees. Can do a full 90 degrees, and then he has hinge swivel ankles, which work quite nicely. So articulation on him is pretty standard for the Elite Series, although you really have no use of a swivel at the waist if he even has that, and then the legs are extremely hindered. So you're not going to get this guy into any crazy poses, and unfortunately him being a pretty hand-to-hand combat type of guy, I would have liked to be able to put him in some decent poses, which is unfortunate that you really can't. But still, I think that for the way that his clothing is, I think that they did kind of work around the clothing, what I would consider a decent amount, so that is nice. Also, screw holes is not an issue anymore. They have covered up all of these screw holes on these Elite Series figures, which is awesome. The only visible ones are at the shoulders, but they're really barely visible at all. And then, of course, at the back, they're covered up, and then the clothing covers up the rest. But on all of these Elite Series figures, they do have covers on the screw holes now, which is quite nice. Comparing him to what's I consider like his pal in this movie, basically. We'll have to see the movie to find out for sure, but the kind of duo here, we have Baze with Donnie Yen's character, looking very nice. I think that the two of them look great together, so if you get one, I would highly recommend getting the other one. I think that they really fit together, which is quite nice. So this figure, I would consider quite good. I think that it's not going to blow your mind, so if you're not looking forward to this character, I would not recommend this figure. I definitely don't think that you're going to be like, oh, you know, I'm really not looking forward to this figure, but or to this character, but this figure really impressed me, because it's not that. This is definitely going to be for people who are actually looking forward to this character specifically. If you're not, this is not one for you. This might be a nice replacement for the Black Series until a Black Series 1 comes out, but you might just be better off just waiting for the Black Series if you are a Black Series collector first and foremost. So yeah, so there you go. That's my review of the Star Wars Rogue One Elite Series Chirrut or Donnie Yen's character. Let me know what you guys think of this figure, and thanks so much for watching.